welcome to DualiTEA. I'm your host, Costa, and I'm with a very special guest, Laura Pascale.
Good morning.
And I'm sorry, I didn't put my microphone. Let me just assess myself real quick. We got new lighting in here today, so I was just like very in awe of that. I forgot to put the microphone in front of my face, but we're here. We're back. So yes, we are with Laura Pascale, and would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So I have to really thank Ashley for bringing this out of me. This is the first time I'm doing anything like this live, of course, with a mask on, no less. But my name is Laura Pascale. I was born and raised here on Staten Island. I have been in the medical field for all of my professional life. I was an X-ray technician for 17 years, and I had a trauma that had led me to acupuncture. I had a severe whiplash, a bunch of other stuff going on from that trauma, and I had found acupuncture as a healing modality, and it really changed my world. It changed my life. I also grew up as an athlete, so I was used to being in pain from training so much, but that kind of pain was like next level pain. Nothing was soothing it. Doctors wanted to do surgery, meds, all that. And it just, it just numbed like me, it didn't take away the pain. So when I found acupuncture, I said, I need to do this. I need to provide this for people. Being an X-ray technician, you see how many people just go under the knife like real quick. How many medications are given to people, addictions. It's a crazy world when it comes to healthcare and pain management. So I did a full-on career change when I was 27 years old. And, it was not easy. I was still working, but I was determined to do it. And I've been practicing now for the last 6 years. And I love it. I love my patients. I love, it doesn't feel like work, It's an art. Of course it's a medicine, but it's also an art. And there's always like these layers to learn. And it just makes life really fulfilling for me because of that. And that's it. Here I am.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. And I wanted to let you share about you before I share about you. If anyone who knows me knows that I talk about her nonstop. I'm doing my best to not like take ownership of people and be like, this is my acupuncturist, but it is also my acupuncturist.
Yeah, but I have like little friends. Sister love for you. It's just honestly so real.
Yeah, no, the bond is very real, and I'm very grateful that I got to meet you. And I don't know what I would have done this year without you.
Same, because those new moon ceremonies, that's what led me, to you, and that was such a sense of community, especially, at the time, I was going through a lot of things personally, and that was amazing too. So
thank you. Thank you. I'm happy that resonated. It's like pursuing both of our purposes is what, developed our relationship, and that's the only way I really want to build relationships now.
100%.
Is like, and it's such a pure and clean and healthy type of dynamic that you have when you meet people doing what it is that you're really meant to do.
1,000%.
Rather than sometimes we can meet people like in places that we're not supposed to be or stuff like that, and you can tell the difference. Mm-hmm. But everything is always there's medicine in every dynamic that we have.
I agree.
But yeah, it's earlier this year, I decided that I was just going to focus so much on the physical, but also neglect my physical vehicle, while doing that. I was like, oh, okay, I have 3 jobs now. I'm this overachiever in the physical realm because I feel as if I've always had these, very mystical or metaphysical or, eccentric jobs, which were just, not your traditional everyday job. the last everyday job I really like had for a long time was delivering the papers when I was little, you know? And after that, it was just like this thing here, this thing there, and it was always just something different, you know? So in the beginning of 2020, I was like, you know what? I just want to do regular jobs. Like, I just want to do regular jobs and simultaneously, like, cultivate and build my own brand and the things that I want to pursue, the things that I went to school for, and, you know, and not have to worry about how I'm dealing financially. So I'm just going to throw myself into all of these jobs that I'm doing, these random ones. And yeah, that was pretty much 2020 for me, but I was like really burning out. Like there was a point where I had 3 jobs, was attending protests, was like going in so many different ways, like giving my energy. And I would call Laura or text her like, do you have availability? Or sometimes I'd go twice a week. It was like weekly, but sometimes I would even go twice a week. It was just so much. And like in those moments, you know, I would actually be able to just be in my physical body and allow myself to release the things that I needed to, and also like charge me up. You know, you're like, boom, boom, you're gonna take that out, now you're gonna do this. It's like, it is such an art.
It really is. And I personally go myself, you know, I practice what I preach, because it's the kind of thing, like, you don't have to do anything. I mean, I love massage, don't get me wrong, but with acupuncture, you just legit lay there, and it just does so much with you doing nothing. You don't have to breathe a certain way, you don't have to try and concentrate on anything other, like, it brings you to it.
Yeah.
So it's
it makes you present with the power that you already have within your body to heal yourself.
1,000%. That's perfectly stated.
It's like, I just like right now in this moment, it just came to me like that, because when you like compared it to massage, I'm like, you know, I really do agree with that. I'm like, and I love massage for what massage is when I want that, but like sometimes I don't want to be touched. I want to be in my own energy. And that's been big 2020 energy. like, don't touch me, let me experience myself. And, you know, yeah, wow. I didn't think about it like that. That makes it so much more.
Yeah, you get alone time. I love it.
Yeah, and the needles and the moxa and the different medicines and modalities that go along with acupuncture are just so, like, yeah, it's like you set it up. You're like, here, I'm gonna create the space now. Sit with that.
1,000%. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Your body always wants to heal. Your body is naturally trying to lean towards homeostasis, and that's what acupuncture does. It helps to bring it back into a homeostasis. It's like really, really empowering. You know.
Yeah.
And it helps you be in your physical body. A lot of the things that health and wellness, you know, speak about, you know, through yoga, through exercise, through all these other things, they're all like grounding for us, but we tend to sometimes use them to like escape, you know? Whereas I feel for me, acupuncture should really be painless. Like, it shouldn't hurt. Sometimes, you know, there's certain areas that do. But for me, it like really brings you into your physical body, and you're aware of where energy is going. And you could do that with breath work and exercise and yoga for sure, Tai Chi, Qigong, all that stuff. But again, that's you moving, doing, this is just like a nice restful retreat that is still accessing your physical energy.
It's something I feel is so important for people, like for example, like for, I guess, my type of person that I am, you know, I tend to hang out in the spiritual, mental, emotional realm a lot more than physical. And, you know, there's some people that hang on the physical more and, you know, might resonate more with these movements and these things of that sort. For me, acupuncture is the bridge for me to get to my physical in in a way that it's like the space is being held, the door is being opened, and then I'm doing the rest. My body's doing the rest, and I'm witnessing it. And it makes me want to get to know and develop a relationship more with my body because of how much it's like.
That's a beautiful thing.
I'm like, wow, you are so amazing. Like, I'm literally just here witnessing you be amazing.
Yeah.
Why don't I want to do more things with you? Like, let's go for a walk, you know?
Sorry. I'm going to take a sip of this tea.
No problem.
I have a story on that, though. That's really interesting. Talking about, like, how it moves the physical, and you're literally witnessing it in that moment. And it doesn't always happen often. But my mom yesterday, she had, like a pain on, like, by her rib cage. And, you know, she gets nervous and all this stuff. And I actually, it was in between patients. And I was like, just sit down. Let me just do this quick. And it was one of the first times where she had, like, an acute situation that was happening, like, right in that moment, that it just completely subsided. And, like, she looked at me, like, afterwards, she did not know. She's like, that completely went away. Because I asked her, I said, where's your pain level right now from a 1 to 10? She was like, I'm at a 7. I'm like, sit down, you know? And she looked at me like I was magic after, and it's not me. It's like, I just know where to put it. It's your body just doing what it needs to do. But it was, like, such a fun thing because, you know, she's my mom, and she's always like, yeah, whatever.
It's always so different when you bring it home, you know, and it hits in a different way. And it's actually really wild because it's like in the moment you don't realize, or like we might not be cognizant of the fact that when we do a step like that of healing our parent, our sibling, right?
Yeah.
Or like holding the space, opening up the healing space for them to do it themselves, that we like instantly feel it.
Oh,
It's wild. Like having different sessions with my mother and like sitting down with her, whether it's like conversation and just diving deeper into, you know, making the subconscious conscious and like working on different cycles and patterns and ancestral traumas, and then like her gaining consciousness of that and then making the tangible changes in real life instantly like hits me where I'm like, oh wow, I feel more confident in this area.
Next word level.
And it's like
the shift happens.
It's so incredible, and it's like it's so important, and that's something that's also a whole other topic, you know, maybe on a whole other podcast, but even just to touch base on it a little bit is like, I feel, especially, I'm sure with this could apply to all things physical, mental, emotional, you know, what I've seen the most in the spiritual kind of realm of people being holistic, however it is, people are so quick to move to Bali and all of these places and stay. And I'm not talking for a moment, I'm talking about like staying and just kind of going away from their family and all, and every case is different, and every single case is different, and it's not everyone's responsibility to do the things that they do. But at the same time, in my experience and from my witnessing, I feel like there's always these opportunities where we get brought back to our family.
Oh man.
And like, and you know that too, like it's like we both had it similar, like earlier this year when I had talked to you, and we were like, it's like I've had this opportunity, like, you know, I was in Colombia, and yes, I was with my family, but I was planning on branching out and going other places on my own eventually. At a point, something brought me back to Staten Island. Then when I'm back in Staten Island, I was with my family. Then I moved to Brooklyn, and then situation brought me back to my family. That it's like, and then it continued like that, where it's like, well, until I sat with it, and I was like, why is this happening? And am I running away from something? And if I'm supposedly this person, not supposedly, but you know what I mean, I'm just being dramatic, but like, if I'm this person that holds space for people and helps people to bring them back to themselves and remind them of their purpose, why am I not doing that for my immediate family? And naturally, there's so many levels to why they have to also be open to receive.
Absolutely.
But if you completely are not around them and you disregard them and you go rogue, like, you would never even have the opportunity to know.
100%. It's sometimes the adventure is going back home. You know, there's adventures that call us, but there's also some things for us to learn within family dynamics.
And it shows our own growth. Like,
immensely.
It's like, oh, you think you're healed? Go stay at home with your family for a week. Go ahead.
Oh, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you though about some of those physical things. One other thing I wanted to say too. Sorry, I'm skipping around, but about the physical, because I respect like yoga, qigong, and all that so much. The thing about acupuncture is that sometimes people are actually too ill. I'm sorry, I thought I put this on vibrate down. I thought people were like too, some people are too ill to do like the physical work. I mean, breath work is one of those things that people should be able to access. I love breath work. To me, that's, breath is God. Like, it's amazing. But let's say somebody, broke a leg and they're just out of a surgery or something. They can't do anything real too physical. Maybe they can move their arms and stuff. But that's where acupuncture really comes in and helps work on the physical body too. The thing that I wanted to discuss, if any of my patients are listening to this, they know there's like some real strong basics I have that are super, super simple for you to, create harmony and balance in your life. Do you know what the first one is?
Well, the things that I personally they are solidified in my everyday is eat breakfast and wear warm socks.
Yeah, for sure. Those are the two major. There's a third one, but it just depends on the person. You have to blow dry your hair, at least the roots. A lot of people have sinus issues or foggy thinking, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but it all has to do with dampness. When the thing that I love about what I do, it just replicates nature. So if you pay attention to seasons and nature, then you could understand what goes on into the body, because that's who and what we are. That's what we're made of all the earth elements. And dampness is one of those things. It's heavy and it impedes natural flow. So when you're walking around, females especially, with like a wet head, that's dampness on your head. Even if you just blow dry the roots, it'll do you much better. But people that have chronic sinus issues that come into me, the number one thing that they do is always walk around with a wet head.
That's so wild, because literally this morning, I don't have a blow dryer. I think I should acquire one, because now I have my hair and I'm kind of doing hair things. I'm not just waking up and having my hair be natural. I'm I curled it today. But this morning I literally woke up and I stood under my heater and just let it dry my head, because I felt I had a little bit of dampness in my my root still, and you must have just spoke directly to me, because this is the first time we're talking about this. And I was literally standing under my heater, while the air was blowing. I was standing on my couch under my heater, just like this. That's
you were
so
just
funny.
saying the other day too that your sinuses were bothering you a little from the dryness. But it doesn't even if it's dryness, you would think something wet and damp might help to. Yeah, technically yes, but going into your nasal passages, not coming from the top of your head. The body is a container, it's a temple. You want to keep it warm. And that's the other thing about wearing socks and slippers in the house. So the floor tends to gather dampness. That's the coldest spot in a room is the floor. And people think, oh no, I gotta ground, I gotta be barefoot. No, you have to earth, you have to be outside barefoot. If summertime calls for you to be barefoot in your house, you could do that, but if you have air conditioning running, dampness is still gonna gather on the floors. And the thing is this, dampness impedes flow. It's so, a lot of people are not in touch with their feet because of this habit from a young age. I tell my friends that have kids, I'm yo, you gotta put socks on that kid. I know they run hot, but just a thin sock, something. Yeah. And basically everything your grandmother told you to do is what you should be doing to stay healthy, But a lot goes into the feet. That's in Chinese medicine, that's our kidney channel. That's our root, and we develop a lot from that, you know, from earthing and grounding. But if you're not in touch with that energy and you have dampness and that flow is, you know, inhibited, you could actually have things such as arthritis of the knees. You could have low back pain because of that. You could have infertility and impotence because of that. Mm-hmm. You know, these channels are important. They all need to be free flowing. And when your feet are ice cold, numb or sweaty and like damp from, you know, cool, like from being on a just straight up floor like that, you're not really keeping your body like as a container it should be. And that's the same thing with like keeping the head warm and you know, the hundreds, thousands of years ago, people didn't wash their hair, you know, it was not, sinus issues were not a thing, you know, so we have created so many of these things, these battles for ourselves, and it's really simple fixes, you know, just, I know some people just with the shoes in the house and the slippers in the house, they're like, I can't. I'm like, all right, well, you know, try. Even if you get like a fluffy thing, you know, there's ways of going about it.
I got these thick thermal socks. I was thinking about you. I was at TJ Maxx. I was like, Laura would be so proud.
It's true. It's so true because you have no idea. You change one little thing like that and so much changes. It's so empowering.
I've actually noticed the difference because I was one of those people that walked barefoot all the time. I always felt comfortable barefoot since I was a kid. Barefoot and on my tippy toes. That's just how I walk. I don't know this.
Yeah. You have that high heart.
that's probably why.
Yeah.
From years of walking on my tippy toes. But yeah, I didn't want to. Like, honestly, when you told me, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like,
you were just, like, wanting to be in astral realms when you were a child.
Yeah.
Tiptoeing up to them.
It was what made sense to me. That's why I'm, like, I feel like I'm learning how to human now. Like, This is, like, especially this year has been, like, all right, you have a physical body. Remember you have a physical, you're here. Like, you know, I would always be like, oh, it's so vanity. It's so whatever. Who cares? It's like, no, it's still the vehicle for your whole body.
Yeah.
Like your whole essence, the container for your soul. It's just as important as everything else. Like literally 2020 is the year that I finally accepted physical being as important as everything else. The way I feel like maybe others might be in different spectrums of it where they feel like, okay, now my mental health is this important. Now my spirituality is also this important. Like all four of those factors are equally important.
Yeah.
And if they're not in balance, like you can tell just by the way your life is flowing.
Absolutely.
You know?
We're always looking for magic on the outside. There's so much magic and alchemy happening within.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get into it and really understand it, you appreciate so much. And it just radiates, you know?
For sure.
Couple of other things I wanted to talk about, again, with the physical body. I love crop tops. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful woman, you know, men, their bodies are beautiful. But that's another thing. Like, there were no crop tops hundreds of years ago, so people are having digestive issues. People are having, like, menstrual cramps, like, major issues with that. This needs to be kept warm, you know? Mm-hmm. Even the back needs to be kept warm. And summertime's a different story. You know, it depends on seasons, too. You want to do that in the summer, you're good. But if you're going to walk into an air-conditioned place after you're sweating and have some cold air blowing on you, you have a chance of just like having, you know, what happens is they call it evil wind in Chinese medicine. It gets into, your pores are open when you sweat. If you have a weak immune system, sometimes your pores could be open. And when that wind comes in, or dryness or cold, it gets trapped in the outside layers of our muscles. And it can spasm. Like, you could technically, like, feel it. Like, on windy days, you got to keep the back of your neck covered. You know, these are all things that are so vital to keep our physical body going in the right way. It's, you know, when you're dealing with, like, a half a achy neck all the time, it could have just been from that one day you sat underneath that air conditioner, and now you're screwed. You don't know how to get it out of you. And now it gets deeper into these layers. It's that simple for things to happen. This is what modernization has done to the body. We do not live in harmony with nature anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's so important to get back to that. And, you know, it's really, it's the essence of health, you know, is being in tune with nature.
I just want to echo that right there because that's like such a gem that like I feel like needs to be said again, is like, we are not in harmony with nature, and we need to get back in harmony with nature, and we are a part of nature, you know. Something that my elder says all the time is like, we are nature, we're part of it. We don't go into nature, we are nature. You know, we go into a forest, but we don't go into nature. We are nature, we're in nature, in ourselves.
We have a full-on relationship with trees. We exhale, they inhale. Mm-hmm. They exhale, we inhale. That cycle just alone is like the most magnificent thing that, you know, I mean, it's to just know it. It's like, wild. You know? Yeah. The other thing I speak of so often is the breakfast thing. That's something super important that I want to speak about. So traditionally, I was looking this up too, because I was looking in other countries traditionally what they ate for breakfast, and there's not many people that eat eggs and bacon and all that. It was normally like a porridge or like a gruel, they called it, and I feel so bad speaking of modernization and how it is destroying us, but
it's informative, and we need to become aware of this. Like the modern medicine, also Western medicine way of like looking at things as like, oh well, things just happen, and it's just happening because they're happening. It's everything you've done. You've made yourself horrible. Yeah. Like, listen, we contribute to it. All right, but we don't need to, like, take all that.
But we've also been, like, brainwashed, and, you know, it's a whole nother level. So many levels to that. I don't have my sword right now to have that discussion, but, so the thing about breakfast is this. There's this organ clock in Chinese medicine, and between about 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. are really like the hours that you want to take in a breakfast. And I know people speak about fasting and how great that is. Yeah, it can be for some people that have very low testosterone levels. The whole thing behind that is, you know, waking up and going to hunt. You know, that's why people think that, you know, fasting is this traditional thing, like paleo stuff, and it does have some benefits, but for most people it does not. Most people right now in our society are stressed out, super stressed out, and that causes inflammation. The first thing to usually go within our systems is our digestive system. That's one of our first things. You know, right away, like you start feeling bloated or like lethargic and can't digest well, having problems going to the bathroom. That is like a number one complaint. For the majority of people, that's where our health starts to just turn, you know, out of homeostasis. And in Chinese medicine, we call those organs, the spleen and stomach, earth. Those are our earth organs. Of course, we're destroying it, and then we're destroying it. So between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., those are the hours of those organs, those earth organs. And they need nourishment. And they don't want things that are like hard to break down. Because first of all, they're usually weak to begin with because of the stress we're already dealing with. You know, if you didn't sleep well the night before, or, you know, you're just life in general, especially with everything that's going on now. It's like, even before this, we're just out of whack. So what you want to do is you could build so much energy, so much vitality, so much of your immune system back just by focusing on that one meal. And so many people are not interested in eating breakfast because they are so out of balance. The sign of good health is a hearty appetite in the morning, believe it or not. You know, most children, when they wake up, like, they want to eat breakfast. That fire overnight goes out a little bit. You need to just, like, kindle it a little. You need it to get lit. Otherwise, what else are you working on? You know what I mean? You don't want to, like, overdo it. Like, eggs, pancakes, all that stuff is going to just it's like putting too much wood.
Don't be New York about it, guys. Like, don't bacon, egg, and cheese it every day. I'm not saying ever, you know, everything in moderation. Like, don't deprive yourself of things that you truly want. You know, give yourself that every once in a while.
I do. I totally do. It's, you know, anybody that knows me knows I'm a true moderation type person.
It's like, so important, because if you don't, then you're literally, like, depriving that it doesn't last. It's fleeting results. Like, you won't actually give yourself, and you'll hate yourself for it.
Living here in Staten Island with all this good food, like, listen, if I lived in the jungles of Costa Rica, it might be a completely different story.
Absolutely.
You know, there'd probably be like no bread ever.
Mm-hmm.
But for the fact that I'm a foodie, like, I love food, but if I'm gonna eat like that, one day I'm gonna make sure I have some good green tea. Like, I'm gonna, balance it with different things.
That's something that my friend Emilio, that he has said to me, that someone had said to him, was like, instead of solely focusing on taking something away, focus on adding something.
Crowd in.
Yeah.
So other things could get crowded out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're having, like, a bacon, egg, and cheese, maybe have a ginger shot,
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, like, not every day, you know what I mean? That doesn't, like, completely cancel it out forever, but, like...
But have, like, a nice miso soup,
Exactly.
Like,
something warm.
Yeah. So that thing about those earth hours and breakfast, you want that to be, like, easily assimilated. So, like, easy to break down. And I'm going to give you guys just a couple of examples of, like, what that can be, but eggs is definitely not one of them. You could incorporate that in, at different times, especially once your digestive system starts to build up again. But for the most part, I have this theory, I call it the blender theory. And, okay, so it's like, all right, what are you eating for breakfast? Like, let's say a traditional American breakfast. So there's bacon, sausage, pancakes, there's some orange juice, there's a cup of coffee, toast with butter. Now, let's take all of that and let's put it in a blender. What does that look like when you blend it up?
Gross.
Yeah. So imagine your body is like this vehicle, right? And... imagine it's like weak and tired, because all of you are to a certain point with the shit that's going down right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I you're strong too, though. This is this is important for you to pay attention to. But picture what that looks like, and picture trying to break that down on a stressed out, inflamed, tired body. That's not going to work. That's going to take more energy from you. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel exhausted after that meal. What you want is something easily assimilated, and that's where those, like, porridges come in. And, in China they call them kanjis. They're made from rice, and it's like almost like a watery oatmeal. Mm-hmm. Put that in a blender, some, like, watery, oatmeal, and a steamed apple. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, like, a little more fluid. You know what I mean? You pour that out, it's going to come out, It's not going to, like, come out in one big ball of a chunk, So you want things that are easily assimilated. And the go-to thing that I tell people all the time, especially because it's super affordable, super easy, I have a love for apples. It's so you just buy a bag of apples, you cut up an apple in the morning, you steam it or bake it. You could have that on its own with some cinnamon. You could put some walnuts on there if you want to, like, put in some fat. Also, what I do, I always have, like, steamed rice or quinoa around.
What about cashews? Are cashews good?
Yeah, you can do the cashews.
I'm not really a big fan of walnuts.
You can even do pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are good.
Yeah,
pumpkin
you did put me onto those pumpkin seeds. I've been having them nonstop now.
So you do that. You do the apple that way. I'm gonna explain two other sides of that apple thing, and you add, like, a little, like, brown rice or white rice if you want. You could put a little coconut oil, little butter, ghee, however you want to do it. You guys are welcome to DM me for, like, this recipe, because it's super powerful and it's easily assimilated. You feel good after you eat it, and, like, your body, like, works on it. And I mean, apples, how can you go wrong with apples? It's like the easiest thing. It's so easy. Two other things I wanted to say about that breakfast. Like, if you're somebody that leans towards dryness all the time, somebody that's, like, constipated or, dry skin all the time, dry eyes, you could, like, boil the apple and then drink the water. And that helps a lot. That helps lubricate the intestines and things. If you're somebody that is very sinusy all the time and very, like, damp, you could bake the apple or just even, like, stir fry it. Cinnamon's important. You guys could add a little maple syrup if you want. And it's good to eat that kind of sweet stuff in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
get it out of the way then, and then throughout the day, just eat nice and clean and healthy, whatever it is that works for you. But the sweet stuff in the morning, not overly sweet. We're not talking like white sugar. We're talking just like a touch bit of maple syrup if you can't do that on its own. I don't add any honey or maple syrup to that breakfast. I just, I have it, the apples are super sweet, especially once they get cooked up.
It sounds really good. I'm just thinking about, the farmer's market on Saturday, by the way. Get your apples, support local. And, yeah, I'm just thinking, I just had, I think it was, I don't know, actually, I was going to say, I think a Fiji apple, but I don't think it was. I think it was something, like, that was just weird, and that's why I was like, I want that one.
Yeah.
But it was so good. I had it yesterday. I've been thinking about it, literally, since I ate it.
Yeah, apples are freaking delicious. And they're related, like, to the rose family, too. I don't know. I just think things that have been around for like a long time are where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The traditional access to things that people ate for thousands of years. I think that's what we should be eating. Also be careful too, guys. Eating things that are raw and cold. That is also not good to do in the winter, especially. To break that down causes some mucus. Again, think about the blender theory. Just imagine like putting like a bunch of raw fruits, vegetables in a blender. You know how there's like that weird thick foam at the top? Mm-hmm. That's like almost what you could consider dampness in the body.
Okay.
Can be like, it can make issues like with your sinuses and bloating. A lot of people that come to me that are trying to break down things that are raw, it takes like this churning, and it takes a lot of churning for somebody that's weak, which most of us, our digestive systems are just shot. It's just, it's what the food system has done to us. Mm-hmm. So just be cautious about like eating raw and cold stuff.
Yeah, I believe that it's like really important that, the different topics that you're talking about are definitely things that you can see in these different spaces that are really glorified as the be-all solution to all problems. And it's like your body doesn't even, like, it's like, yeah, it's better than eating McDonald's and Wendy's, but it's not like what your body's also asking for. It's still providing that like stagnancy and that and longer to adapt and to digest and to come back to homeostasis. So it's like, I'm really grateful that you came on here and you're talking about these ones too, because it's like there's so many, like, just I feel like it's always with anything, like, be wary of anything that seems like it's the end all be all.
Yeah.
And if there's like a diet or something that someone is recommending or anything or something you're reading about that's like, this is it. You eat raw, you become raw vegan, you solve all the problems in the world. Okay, yeah. You eat smoothies every day and have salads, like, you're the most healthiest person ever. And it's like all these different things are like really important. And me, a person that like, I love smoothies and salads. And I remember the first acupuncturist I ever went to, she had told me like, don't do that, stop doing that. And I was like, I wasn't ready to stop doing that. I was like, I'm still doing that,
Yeah.
And it took me until I realized, like, I started paying attention. Every time I would go to acupuncture, she would always have to put a heat lamp on my stomach. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just want a heat lamp on my stomach showing me that I'm not growing. Like, like if I come here and I have to do the same thing every time.
Over and over, yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Then I'm just attributing to my cycle, So I'm like, all right. I cut down on the smoothies and the salad, and if I do have them, I let them either get room temp, or even something that someone has told me was to take a salad and just like heat it up real quick.
Put the dish in like a toaster oven, or get the dish hot. Mm-hmm. This way it like wilts a little.
And just mm-hmm. to have that, and I love spinach, like it's heated up too, like, so I'll have that, like, just don't like saute all the way, and just to have that still that freshness of it. But yeah, it's so important because there's so many fads, so many different things that are done that
are destroying us, and you don't even realize it.
Because it's getting glorified. Yeah. So in one way or another, if you're allowing the placebo effect, it's helping you in one way, mm-hmm. but it's also like physically, like on a very scientific level, like could be better.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be better. Yeah.
People that are drinking like cold smoothies in the morning, I know their nose is running real quick. Mm-hmm. That's that whole, so if you drink something and you get brain freeze, everything's connected, and all these channels are connected. But the thing is, with the stomach, they say it's our second brain, which is so interesting. What the temperatures you're putting in here, it just associates with our sinuses and, everything up in here. You don't realize that. Most people are just so numb to understanding it too. But when you're having things that are cold like that, your nose is going to run. Or if you're having things that are spicy, your nose runs. You just have to be careful of temperatures. Mm-hmm. Moderation is really, really key when it comes to a lot of this.
Temperatures are so interesting, how the body is with temperatures in so many different ways, and different medicines, how different medicines make you feel temperatures in different ways.
I was just thinking about this too. There's these ice cold baths. There's a whole another topic that it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But to each their own. Some people could do one thing and feel fantastic, and another person can't. That's what I love about Chinese medicine. It's, you're really looking at the person, you're really looking at the root. Just because what I'm saying here works for one person, that doesn't mean it's going to work for another person, but this is the majority because of what I was saying.
Environmental factors.
Yeah.
And it's what makes sense. It's like, maybe if we didn't have all of these environmental factors, it wouldn't be so hard to digest these things in these ways as it opposed to how it is now with our weakened immune systems, digestive problems, mental state, all these things.
Yeah. It's vital to just have the awareness of the physical body and what you can do to empower yourself to heal it. Simple things. Blow dry your hair a little bit. Wear socks. Eat breakfast and, make sure it's something that you can break down easily. Those 3 things are vital to what I tell my patients to really get the next level of the board game. It's who wants to walk around with that fogginess all the time? You don't realize we numb ourselves out so much with food and whatever
disassociating
else.
From everything, literally.
Yeah.
So I was just talking about this with my friend yesterday. It's so many different environments and different groups of people, and you start to go on your healing journey or be more cognizant of your health, and you start moving away from different things that you used to resonate with that you're not resonating anymore. You realize not only how much they're disassociating, how much you disassociated from yourself in order to live a certain lifestyle in a certain way, but then you realize how much they are as well. And then it's not about having the pity, it's more about just having the understanding, holding that space, because that's where there's a whole a little bit of a topic that I do want to get into with you, because it's something that we talked about the other day when I came in for the session, and also something that is a really important topic in everything that I do, and that comes with integrity. And and when I noticed that when we start moving out of these boxes or these spaces of what people knew us to be into what we're becoming, there's a lot of, that person's fake spiritual, or that person's a fake guru, or this, that, and the third. And naturally, of course, we know who we are and what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But when we're in that growth period, there's a lot of imposter syndrome on our own self,
1,000%,
with most people. There's this other majority of people that I witness a lot that I'm I don't understand, because I don't come from there, where it's completely no, I started this yesterday. I'm qualified to facilitate an entire retreat, and I'm just that for the majority, at least with the people that are close to me that I align with, it's this theme of integrity, and how when breaking these molds, and having these transition periods, create balance in knowing what we're doing and why we're doing it is so important. And that I feel is also really important when we're studying these different practices that say aren't from our culture, and that is so important to have that reverence and respect. And even so, fair or not, and however anyone feels about it, it's if you come from something, if you have a bloodline in something, there is an innate knowing in your bloodline. And I'm not talking about past life, and I'm talking about what you've been presented with in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. You just have this innate knowing, like you have these things, whether you're aware or not.
Just ingrained in your cells.
Exactly.
There.
Exactly. And like, when it doesn't mean that people that are outside cultures can't practice certain things. It doesn't mean you can't be an acupuncturist. It doesn't mean I can't be a Reiki practitioner. Mm-hmm. It just means that we need to put that much more effort and integrity into understanding these modalities because we weren't birthed in them.
Absolutely.
And also not claiming these titles. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm not all of a sudden, like, they have a thing where, like, technically I would be a Reiki master, but I don't even call myself that because I'm just, like I work with Reiki. You know what I mean? I, like,
energy. Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it's just about having that reverence. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because you're a person who our morals and integrity is so in alignment where every time we talk, we're like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air. Someone is like taking in all these factors. Because is it easy to do that? Like, no, it's not easy to sit there and be super in your integrity and in your balance at all times. I mean, it's natural for me, and I believe it's natural for you, but it doesn't make it easy. It's easier to just cut corners.
1,000%.
And pitch yourself like a sale, like a business.
Mm-hmm. People are always trying to get me to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And I'm just always like, listen, I run a small practice, and that's why I want to keep it. You know, people that need to find me will find me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's one of those things, you lose the energy when you broadcast it. That's how I feel.
It's like if you're practicing what you preach, which, you know, I love that you just naturally said that. You're like, when I get acupuncture, because one of the questions that I talk about on here is like, well, how do you find your balance?
Yeah.
Like you already answered that, I mean, but you could also answer that with whatever else it is that you do to find your balance. It's like, for me, like I receive Reiki. I'm a Reiki practitioner, right?
Yeah.
Anything that I recommend to anyone, I'm doing myself. I'm receiving myself. Yeah. If I go to someone, they have to be doing the same thing because I won't go to them. Like if I go to get my eyebrows done and that person's eyebrows are not any shape that I would like.
Right.
Why am I going to that? I don't resonate with that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like with anything. If you're going to a producer because you want to learn music, but you don't like the music they produce, why are you going to that producer? Because it's accessible? Mm-hmm. Or because, you know, it's not in alignment with you. Things that come easy usually aren't the integral ones that you actually want to pursue. But when you're patient and you trust spirit, you trust yourself in that alignment, everything you ever wanted will come into.
You find your people, yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. You asked what do I do to bring balance?
To find your balance, yeah. How do you find your harmony?
So, nature walks for me is like, sometimes I take 2 a day. And there's times that, you know, I don't get one in for an entire, I don't know if a whole week goes by that I don't take one. But to me, to be out in nature and breath work. But, and the ocean, I like to go to a place where there's like a little bit of like woodsy trails and ocean because I like the best of both worlds kind of. But, nature for me, I mean, every morning I get up and make myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And I always go outside and just take a breath of fresh air, even if it's cold. Like it was cold this morning and yesterday too. Crazy. I don't stay out there for long. I just do it to bring like life into my lungs. And there's this tree in between my house and my neighbors, and you know I just say good morning. And you know, to me, like nature is where it's at. It's so peaceful. It's so peaceful. Yeah, that's my favorite. Sunsets and, you know, I don't always get up for the sunrises. The sunrise this morning was pretty cool, though. I only caught, like, some of it through the trees. It only lasted for a little bit. But that's where my balance is at. Nature.
It brings you back to yourself.
Yeah.
It's so important that we find these different things. I completely can resonate with that. Like, I'll just go over to a tree and I'll be like, especially ginkgo trees. I have this thing with ginkgo trees.
Beautiful.
And I'm just like, ginks, hi. You know, like, I'm back. Life is hard. Thank you for working all the time.
Yeah,
you know?
all the time.
Even just thinking about that, even just like having that conversation, I like look wild. I really don't even care. if you see me in Silver Lake, probably Silver Lake, talking to a tree, like, this is what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? And it's just like, even when you just communicate with nature, like, even though it can't necessarily respond to you in the way that a human would, they respond in other ways. Like,
it's like
you might feel like
confirmation.
gust of wind, or like a leaf will drop on your nose, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
We're doing this thing.
It's literally like, it's such an embrace.
And it's always accessible to anyone. It's just a matter of how present with yourself and with something else are you willing to be. Are you willing to like be patient and to take a breath and take a moment? Especially, I say that to myself too, because like sometimes I'll talk and I get really excited and I'm like nonstop.
Yeah.
And I constantly get told, like, take a breath.
Yeah.
And then when I take that breath, and like that, oh my God, I gotta say everything because it's going through, and then it's like, take a breath and I'm like, wait, I was talking about fruits. How am I in like my trip to
the Aurora Borealis?
Yeah, like how did I get here? Like how did I get to the trauma I had in the second grade? Like what?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes things need to come out, but then it's also being, when we give ourselves a moment to breathe in a conversation, when we give ourselves a moment to go to a tree, when we give ourselves a moment to take a nature walk, when we go to give ourselves a moment to get an acupuncture treatment or a Reiki treatment, or we give ourselves a moment in the shower when we're just standing there and we're just still letting the water hit us. We tune into our own energy, our own frequency, our own mental state, physical, emotional
power.
And we get to understand ourselves. And if you're a person that you experience different things and you don't ever want to be overwhelming, especially like, this is how my brain has to work for things, because I could be very self-sacrificial, where if it hurts me, I'll be like, it's all right, I'll figure it later. Like, and like, I've been working on that so much. That's been 2020 has been like kind of not doing that, like just putting myself first in that way. But sometimes I have to like use my manipulation tactics for good, right? And in my own head, I'll be like, well, how would I want to receive someone who is not taking a moment to be aware of what they're saying and how they're saying it, because that could be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's taking accountability for your own energy, because I don't ever want to be a draining person or an overwhelming person to someone else. And it's not like, that's never the intention, but when we're not rooted in our purpose of why we do the things we do, these things can happen, and we have to be open to that. And the way to avoid that is literally by taking a moment and taking the accountability, not beating yourself up, but making the conscious change to give yourself time and space to listen to yourself the same way you'd listen to somebody else if you were talking to them. Like,
absolutely.
That's what meditation is, It's like, I'll echo that on every single podcast, on every single platform, on everything that I do. Like, meditation doesn't have to look or sound a certain way. Like, meditation is literally taking a moment to like have a conversation and listen to yourself the same way you'd listen to somebody else, same way you listen to this podcast. Listen to yourself. What is your body telling you? How much you don't want to be meditating?
Right.
How much you don't like, how much food you want to eat, what song's stuck in your head, all of these escapism tactics that we've created to cope with the fact that we're not comfortable with just ourselves.
Right. That's what it is. The escapism is like indoctrinated in us, and you don't need to escape yourself ever. This is home.
Create that safe space, like nourish yourself, like becoming your best friend, like, and that's the oh man, like that has what has been the theme for this year for me, and for a lot of people I know, has been like, we've been talking and being like, I really love my own company. Yeah. Like, I really love my own company. To the point that I don't really, it's not that I'm not like completely introverted to the fact that I don't want to be around people at all, but it's like, unless there's a basis of us growing and like an intention, a purpose, I don't hang out. Like, I don't hang out with people anymore. Like, because if I hang out with someone, That's like using a person as a distraction, a vehicle for my distraction, as you're using me as a vehicle for your distraction. So unless we're building something, growing something, that could be even just catching up and like building from there. If you're open to that, that could be the hang up. But like, hang out, oh, I'm going to go drink, I'm going to go smoke, I'm going to do that. And it's like, I don't want to escape anything. In fact, I'm doing the exact opposite. Like, I'm facing everything head on.
Yeah.
Anything that makes me not focus on my purpose repulses me at this stage. And I feel like there's a medium that I can find with that I'm working to.
Good. But that's a beautiful thing. The awareness of it just on its own is so vital to move forward. You know, I keep talking about, like, levels in board games, you know. You just don't want to stay in that same vicious cycle. Like, I mean, that's not what we're here to do. This is Earth School, you know? You got to elevate to the next level.
Yep.
And when you're escaping, you're just escaping. You know, you're not living. And
you're just like running around, you know where the goal is, you know where like the finish line is, and you're just like, I'm gonna go find out all of these little side routes. I'm gonna learn this entire board. Maybe I'll jump off the board. Okay, I'll come back on, you know.
Yeah, and then like you're going to look and like there's nothing else there, you know.
You already know it all.
Yeah.
Well, not know it all, but you know
that level.
You're aware of what that realm looks like for you, and it's like, how many master's degrees do you want to get in the same major?
Yes, yeah. That's another thing too, like a lot of the stuff I was talking about with foods, the spleen and stomach, those organs that are considered like those earth organs, they're associated with emotions. That's why, like, when you get, let's say, like, anxious, like, you feel it in your stomach. Most people feel it in their stomach. So the emotions that are associated with those organs are like worry, and stress has more to do with the liver, but that can invade that area, and a lot of people feel that, you know, under their rib cage. But that's the thing, when we were talking about doing the podcast, like what the topic should be, we were talking about how being in your physical body can bring clarity just with these little simple fixes, like this breakfast. You're empowering that organ system to now have your thought process be clearer. You know, so many people have sent me text messages that have literally made me tear up. They're like, yo, that breakfast changed my life. And I'm just like, oh my God. It has happened to me, you know. When I started realizing, you know, something's not working here, my studies too. Before acupuncture school, I didn't mention it. I had like a near-death experience with food poisoning. Bad. My early 20s. I was hospitalized for food poisoning. So that sent me it's called Institute of Integrative Nutrition. It's I think it's called nutrition school now. It's a real worldwide nutrition school. Amazing. And Chinese dietary therapy was, you know, I just clicked with it. Like, it just got me. But that's the thing, like, so even, like, when you're doing these things and you're eating and, you know, especially that breakfast meal, you're bringing now clarity, you know, through you. And we all need clarity. You know, it's what I pray for most, is just clarity, because there's a lot of false things that have been coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, clarity to, like, understand and listen to ourselves is, like, the solution to all, like, and we can see through all of the illusionary things that gets thrown upon us, and, you know, the world for what it is, and all of these things that are happening, things that were revealed in 2020. If we received 2020, we prayed for clarity, right?
Yeah.
No, all these major things were revealed. Now, some things we've disassociated from because, you know, we're real good at that. But they still happen. You know what I mean? There's certain topics that very much so still happen that, you know, can be discussed on another time. It's just like these different factors. We can't be blind to it. You know, we prayed for something, we've seen it. Now we've seen what 2020 was like when we pulled the veil, right? It's not so pretty, but it's needed. Yeah. Now, what activated in you? What activated in you in 2020? When you got to see the scope of clarity within the global realm, or even in our country alone, like, what was revealed to you? What doesn't sit right with you? Even if you don't necessarily co-sign with all of these different theories, what doesn't sit right with you? Like, fuck what anyone else said. What doesn't sit right with you? What is your own theory? What's your own hypothesis? Can you write that down? If you don't write it down, can you talk to yourself about it? Can you talk to somebody you feel safe with about it? To get it out of you, to understand, like, wait, maybe this doesn't add up. Like, because it hit everybody in every realm. Like, there is not one person that should be living in 2020 that's like, oh yeah, everything's normal. The government loves me. The world is great. The higher ups are awesome for us. Like, they want us to be healthy and nourished. Like, medical field gold. You know, you've seen this new stuff they got? Works phenomenal. Like, no, like, there is in order to be in that state of delusion, that takes so much trauma. So much trauma to exist and stay in that state of delusion. If that is where these individuals are at, like, I just really pray for them. On a very honest note, it's like, if anyone is in that delusional of a state after what has been ripped open in 2020, I really, really pray that they find that balance and that clarity within themselves, because the more you find the clarity within yourself, the more you see the clarity outside of yourself. So as within as without, like, it's as above as below. It's always going to connect. So even when you see the clarity coming from 2020, a lot of people, like, I was on the phone with Geico Insurance the other day. I'm like, I'm 25. Can we make this lower? Like, what's up? Like, Rick, shout out to Rick. Like, he was great. And Rick, like, we're on the phone, and he's like, oh, I just got to check something for you real quick. And I'm like, okay. And then, like, I forgot what we said. We started on a conversation, and then we were talking about 2020. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you know what? I'm great. He was like, oh, I'm grateful that, like, I got to, like, really take care of myself this year. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's been a lot of self-reflection. Like, I love that so many people have been self-reflecting. Like, it's kind of forced us to do. I'm like, I love that shit. Like, do it. You know? Like, do it.
That you took it in with Rick.
Yeah, Rick and me and Rick, like, it was great. It was a great conversation. You know, like, it helped me with my insurance now. You know.
That's fantastic.
So I felt very, very grown about that whole situation. I was like, this is me and my glory, 2020 on the phone with Rick talking about life and lowering my insurance. But yeah, like, and it's just so beautiful. I feel like these conversations come up a lot more frequently. Mm-hmm. You know, something that I'm grateful for, that it's like, you know, however anyone feels about it, I'm saying it anyway. It's when you smoke cigarettes, right, or you smoke tobacco and you go places, you just meet people that you would have never met, and you have conversations like you would have never had with people. Yeah. It's like it may be for another person who doesn't smoke, it could be like girls in a bathroom.
No, I understand. I used to be a smoker.
Yeah, and it's like, although I participate with tobacco in a different way in this day and age, like, there was years that I smoked cigarettes. Like, it was very different than what I do now. And it's like, I have met so many people, and I feel like those people were always the people that I had these conversations with. And now it's like, to have a conversation with Rick in Geico, to walk into a supermarket and just, like, meet these people, just like, we're bumping into each other, like, 2020, you know. It's like, what it bring up in you, you know. And it's beautiful, because it brings a sense of, like, we can talk to each other, we can relate, and tragedy and trauma brings up, like, really, like, this core sense of survival. Mm-hmm. And it echoes our core being, whether that looks toxic in a moment or it looks productive in a moment. It still brings up this sense of survival, and then who you want to be after that survival comes out.
Oh yeah.
And you're seeing such people in such raw states, and even if you don't resonate with them, you can appreciate them for their rawness. Yeah. Like, as you're being authentically raw. Like, I'm not going to pretend I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just be like, not today.
Yeah.
Not feeling it, you know?
That it's a thing to understand that space that surrounds people.
Yeah.
And that way. But you have that about you too. Like, you know, a lot of people don't have that understanding. I wish we all did. Yeah. It would be a much better place.
I'm grateful for the medicine that, like, I feel like if I go anywhere, anybody kind of, like, tells me their entire life.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't have boundaries, so I didn't know how to, like, navigate it. I would just be like, oh my God, I'm 7. I don't know how to handle your divorce conversation right now, you know? Like, but then I would give advice, and it would be, like, spot on. They'd be like, wait, you're 7. I'm like, I know. It's like, my first therapist that I ever went to, I was 11. Mm-hmm. By the end of the therapy session, I was sitting there. She was literally telling me about her divorce. And she was like, wait a second. What? How am I telling you about this?
That's crazy.
She was like, oh my God, I don't know what it is about you, but you need to be a therapist. And I was just like this little bean, like, how cute. Yeah, meanwhile, I'm like, even at that point, I knew I didn't like school. I knew I loved learning, but I didn't like school. I was like, yeah, probably, I don't know, figure it out. I thought I was going to be a bartender for a long time. I'm like, I'm going to be that kind of therapist, you know?
Right.
And Spirit did not let me do that. They're like, no, you're gonna work in more of a spiritual aspect, and you'll find that when you are in the darkest part of your entire life, and you'll find that there. You know, that
you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, for talking about these topics, and I'm just really grateful that we talked about this on the last podcast for 2020, because harnessing these balances, like the whole purpose of this podcast is to discuss with real people, real topics on how they not only find balance within their life, and also how we give balance to the world. We are all a part of that. It doesn't matter if you are a practitioner or you're not a practitioner, you're still giving a balance into the world. You're still a part of that balance. So there's not someone too greater or too less than, you could have a person who is homeless come up on this podcast, and they can contribute and express something that you didn't even know, and they're bringing this ultimate balance into the reality that you weren't even present to. So it's like opening that space for like whoever is supposed to come onto this podcast, and whatever topics we're supposed to talk about, may it resonate with each and every listener, with each and every person that this platform comes in contact with, and permeates through the people who've listened to it into their families and wherever it is, because that's what I want this vehicle to be. That's what this vehicle is that space to share knowledge, find balance. Shout out to Travis Scott. Like, I got to shout out to Travis Scott for saying find your balance, because it's a part of the song with him and Kid Cudi. But I just need to give my homage. I just like, yeah, that's me though. But like, that's a big.
Are you gonna pull that up too? Yeah. I think that would be fun for them to hear.
So with that being said, I wanted to just say that 2020, this last podcast was ultimately said and done, so that the last thing that we're focusing on in 2020 is not the recap. Like, the recap is important, but it doesn't have to be the very last thing that we need to hear going in. That's why my intention was to do it last week. With this podcast, it's so that you're walking into the new year, this new threshold, knowing what you should do presently with your body, giving yourself that moment presently in your body, as well as looking in the future of what you want to manifest. Once you understand the balance, how to find harmony and balance within your body, within your life, you manifest and create your life. You manifest and create your entire destiny. And that is the key to manifestation, is that balance that you have within you, and what it is that you're giving and receiving. Alchemy is very much so that it needs to be an equivalent exchange. So,
well said.
With that being said, the last thing, I keep saying that, but it keeps talking more.
This is what happens when it actually comes in for a treatment. I make sure that there's like a good 45 minutes like afterwards that is free, because we could sit there for like 2 hours and just
that's why we need to have our sessions outside of treatments, in treatments, like just like navigate what is needed, what kind of medicine is needed.
Tea time.
So before I do every podcast, I pull cards to tune into the energy of the viewers and of myself and whatever host that we have on. So the last two energies that are coming up that want to be expressed in this podcast, in this time and space, in whatever time you're listening to it, really, these are kind of timeless. So whenever you need this. The surrendering card, I pulled from the power surrender cards and the numerology cards. And the surrender card is surrender to defensiveness. Defensiveness is a sign of weakness. To communicate in a more empowered way, stay centered and hear someone out, then offer a clear, non-defensive response. How this is also resonating, and how I'm also hearing this is like not being so afraid of the different things that have happened to us, or the different traumas we may have had, or experiences, whether in 2020 or in our life in general, or even in our day. Just because, you bought a coffee or a tea and you dropped it and you spilt it, doesn't mean you shouldn't go and get another coffee or tea the next day or the same day, or go back and even ask like, hey, I dropped it. Like, do you mind if I have another one? I can pay for it. You know, I just wanted to let you know. And just having that boldness, you know, and I feel like it's very heart-centered, and solar plexus centered is coming up there, but I'm also feeling it very much so in my heart as I'm speaking it. So I feel like this has to do with love. So whatever this message is not only love within partnerships, but love within yourself. And, you know, even if you have been hurt in the past, or just like by a relationship, by a business, anything, family members, like, to not allow that defensiveness and that, like, if you shut your heart off and you don't allow yourself to receive and integrate pain, you're simultaneously not allowing yourself to receive and integrate happiness and love. When you close the valve off to one, it closes the valve off to two. Then we don't have that space to actually pursue what it is that brings us joy. And I know, like, this year has been very, like, isolating for a lot of us, and I just want to remind each and every one of you, don't forget to love, you know, love yourself, love things, love nature. Just put your heart into it, tune in with your heart, you know, and listen to what it's asking you for, and honor that. And the second card that came up is 55 Adventure. Color is blue, light blue being throat chakra being the way we communicate, how we receive communication, expression. So even though throat chakra is throat, we can also, like, express ourselves through dance, through art, through singing, through rapping, through speaking, all of these different things that we do. Just remembering to express yourself. They came up together, so I feel like it's also important to express yourself directly and clearly, if you can, concisely, and just understand the heart of what it is that you want to express, whether it's in an argument or in a really happy moment. If you want to give someone a compliment, sometimes family members, whoever you feel comfortable doing that with. And the message here is 5 doubled, right? 5 is what brings things into balance. You have 2 on each side. So 5 is that pinnacle point of change and consistent movement, right? So 5 energy is like a shapeshifter. You know, it's like this movement of, okay, I'm excited to move into the space, or I'm terrified to move into the space. Either way, it's usually those extremes. Try to learn that balance, as well as being in between, where it's like, I'm not so overzealous. I'm not so, oh my God, this is it. Like, I'm romanticized. I put it on a pedestal. This is it. This is the solution to everything. And it's also like, no, I'm not deserving of anything. This can't possibly work. Like, I want to stay where I'm at. I don't want to change things. It's about finding that middle ground and being like, I'm open to what is for me, and I trust myself in the universe that I'm going to receive whatever is for me. And even if it doesn't feel so good, I'll know exactly what to do when it is. And if it feels really good, I'll know exactly how to harness that and not allow myself to get, you know, so fixated on it. So praying for that balance. And, you know, 5 being echoed twice is just like a major change, you know. It's a big one, and it could be in many different areas, but this is coming up also as adventure. The adventure of life. What is the change in the adventure of life? When we've experienced everything that we experienced in 2020, in our lives, in our day, you know, in our week, like, what are you excited? What is your next adventure? Like, what are you excited to go do now that you've been exposed to all of these different versions of yourself and other people in the world? What is it that you what is your next adventure? And I would love for each and every one of us to really think about that going into the new year, and celebrate the new year however it is that you feel you should, you know, safely and in the ways that you feel are resonant. You know, for me, I don't feel like I'm going to get a record player. Probably today, actually. Maybe today or tomorrow, I'm going to get a record player. I'm going to, like, completely disconnect. Just play my records and, like, dance around my house and celebrate all the things that I've done right, all the things that I've done wrong, all the things that I've witnessed that I wasn't able to witness, and just literally celebrate my existence.
Yeah.
And all of the things that I'm walking into. Mm-hmm. You know, all of the different experiences that I'm looking into, that I'm going to experience in this life school, that is just going to bring me closer and closer to myself, and really just enjoy my own company. So that's what I look forward to doing. And
every day is an adventure, you know? Make it that.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everyone who tuned in live. Thank you to everyone who tuned in in the future, and however it works. I know I say it every time, but thank you. Time is weird, and you'll receive this podcast whenever you're supposed to. And when you do, I just want you to know that I really appreciate you, that we really appreciate you, and we are so loved and needed. And I hope that this reminds you of your own greatness and continues to inspire you to get to know yourself and learn your own balance in a really good way. Bye. Bye 2020. Bye 2020.
See ya.
And thank you so much for coming on. Thank
this
you.
was awesome.
Actually, wait, I'm not done. I forgot. I'm here. Wait, we're still live, right? Okay, cool. Where is it? I'm not finding it. Oh, that's because I'm not in the right pocket. I was gonna give this to you before, but now I'm feeling like I want to give it to you now. So before I left, I seen this on my counter, like on my fireplace, and every time I think of you, I think of red.
Ooh.
And like this kind of red specifically, like something that you guys can get the inside tea on anytime I have a guest or a topic. Like the picture that I post might not be of that topic, but it will be like a color scheme that will remind me of the person.
I love the sky. It was a
red sky. Yeah. And I want to gift you this.
Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous.
Cherry quartz and Moroccan agate, and this body.
Oh my god, I love this.
Actual body in gratitude for.
Are you kidding?
Helping me to connect with my body, and I really appreciate you in so many ways. Like, I'm not gonna cry on here.
Oh, you're witnessing.
Yeah, but thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
I love you too,
my sister.
Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yeah,
thank you so much for being you.
Fun. This was so fun. I feel like I'm gonna be calling you to be like, Ash, put me in the spring. I got some stuff to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
On the
This
liver.
is just the first time. This is the first time. There's plenty of topics that we can go off on.
Guys, this is beautiful. Like, she's amazing. I don't even know where you came from.
A similar place from you. So, enjoy your day. See you next year.
Yes, go breathe some fresh air.
Yes, do that.